Can you guys hear me? Okay. I sound weird, so I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. Okay, cool. So good evening. Um, Thanks for coming to this comprehensive plan workshop. Um, so we were supposed to have one last month, but unfortunately I got sick, so we had to cancel that. And so we're going to take the topic from that workshop and combine it with the one intended for tonight. So we're going to focus on community development and environmental sustainability. So we'll just, I know for at the last or the first workshop, we did some SWOT analysis, assessed our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Then we turned that into vision statements at the second workshop, but that was focused on economic development. But for this workshop, we're going to keep the SWOT analysis in mind, but we're going to do something different. I have 4 activities planned for you. I know that sounds like a lot, but maybe it'll just take less time than we actually think it will. Okay, so I guess we can go to the agenda. So I'll start with some community overview, just like give a brief summary of community amenities, services, and things like that, and some census data, and then we'll move on to our activities. So under community, I can go there. Community overview, we're going to go over demographics, economic data, zoning and land use, services and amenities, and community assets. So for demographics, we have a population of 2,770, and that's actually a decline from 2010, at 1.6% decline since 2010. And it's a fairly like the median age of the population is 39.5, so it's a fairly youthful population, and that's sort of reflected in the age and gender chart that you see up there. It's bulging in the middle, and that indicates fairly youthful population. And you can go to the next one. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep this brief because a lot of this was presented at the last workshop, and I really want to get to our activities. So economic data, as you can see from the pie graph and the bar graph, the predominant business sectors are service, retail, and tourism and hospitality. There are 2 major regional employers here, Mount St. Mary's University and National Emergency Training Center. The town has a median household income of $74,000, a little over $74,000. And it has an employment rate of 59.5% and a poverty rate of 12.3%. And here's some housing data. We have actually a surplus of housing units because there are more housing units than the number of households.
Do you have any idea on the last slide where we are in Griffith things in terms of unemployment rate and that graphic in particular as opposed to our neighbors?
Oh yeah, sure.
Do you know that off the top of your head, like where we are, high, low, Thermont, employment rate, median income? I can email you that.
Oh yeah, sure. That's fine.
Sorry, just want to ask the question before.
Okay. I mean, I can. Yeah, definitely do. And I definitely wanted to let you know that, I mean, I should have probably added this information to the slides, but the town's median household income and poverty rate and employment rate, they're all pretty far away from like the average in like the county and Maryland. So yeah, yeah.
When you say far away, you mean
less, yeah. So, yeah, so lower household incomes, and it's very significantly high poverty rate and low employment rate, so things like that. Yeah, of course. Okay, so for zoning and land use, some of you might have already seen this zoning map. We have 10 Euclidean zoning designations. So we have the our conservation recreation, which is to promote recreation and preserve natural resources. And then we have 3 types of residential zoning, low density, medium density, and high density. And that's based on the lot sizes and how many houses and just on one lot. So single family homes are in R1 low density residential, whereas R2 medium density is a little more compact. Then high density is even more compact and has a wider range of housing opportunities in units available. And then we have institutional, which houses civic, cultural, historical uses and landmarks. Then we have 2 types of commercial zones. One is neighborhood commercial that kind of caters more to pedestrian accessibility, whereas general commercial is a little more catered towards vehicular accessibility, as opposed to, I mean, there's both, but it's more catered toward people with cars. It's if there's like a auto repair shop, I mean that would be like in B2 general commercial rather than B1. And then we also have a good chunk of industrial park, and there's office, research, and industrial. So those 2 are the last 2 of those 10 zoning and zoning classifications. But we also have flexible zoning, and that's on the next slide. So as of August 2023, the town has parcels, or the town adopted the Economic Development Flex District floating zone back in August 2023. And the purpose of that is to balance economic growth and kind of preserve the natural surroundings while doing kind of both of them at the same time. And whatever development takes place in these areas, they have to comply with the comprehensive plan and the Catoctin Mountain Scenic Byway. And then we have
Can I ask a question?
yeah, sure.
Do those exactly match the resource conservation areas?
Okay, no, I see them shaking their heads. No, I see them shaking their heads, so I was just smiling. Yeah.
I was just curious.
Oh, okay. And so parcels that are over 25 acres or greater, they sort of float until they're adopted by a master plan. So those parcels, anything that's allowed in business B1, B2, or ORI or industrial park, those uses can be applied there, but they have to be adopted by a master plan that's subject to approval by the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners. And then we have the growth boundary that was adopted in 2021. That's marked by the red border. And then there's the colors are not very distinctive, but the yellow, it represents commercial, and there's the light green, and that's agriculture. And there's the deeper pink is medium density residential, where as the lighter pink is low density residential. And then the map also shows a few roads that could be placed there if those annexations do take place, to alleviate traffic or any congestion. I have a list of services and amenities. It's not a comprehensive list, but I just wanted to bring those up to so that when you do these activities later tonight, you have an idea of what's already there and what's working, and what is needed to fulfill any gaps. So that's why we added transportation, even like the Emmitsburg Thermont shuttle as one of the services that the town benefits from. And if you go down the list, we have educational institutions, emergency service, retail, libraries, parks and rec, all those things, utilities, and even events, because they all are there to benefit the community. And these also kind of tie into like community assets. They're like tangible things that contribute to the quality of life of residents in a town. So if you go to the next slide, it has pictures of a lot of our assets, and I'm sure you can recognize them. The library, the park, the university, even the solar powered wastewater treatment plant, the pool, etc. So it's okay. So now we'll just move on to our activities. Before I do that, I'm gonna just pass out these clipboards with worksheets. Sorry, I know it sounds like school, but yeah, give me 1 second. Did I get everyone? Okay. Did everyone get a clipboard? I'm guessing so. Okay. So the first activity is, reflect on a positive experience that you've had in the past year or so. For me, it was last summer when the farmers market was going on, and I went with my coworkers after work right at 4:30. It was really hot, but it was still fun. It was very vibrant, and we had cotton candy, and that was fun. So I'll give you like 3 minutes to think of an experience, and then we'll share. Who's ready to share?
It's just I'm sitting in the front row. Uh, I had a couple. Is that all right? Walking in Eugene Myers Park and talking with all the people enjoying the weather and outdoors. Community Heritage Day, participating in these workshops for the comp plan and cleanup day that we did last year.
So I also had one similar to Diane's, meeting friendly people while we're walking our dog through the park, which is almost a daily thing. But one kind of different thing, a builder's started to finally renovate the dilapidated falling down house that's next to me, and it's almost finished, and I'm looking forward to some new neighbors soon.
I guess that piggyback on Diane's, the Heritage Day and the parade, seeing the new people coming in. We got new people coming in for next year already calling. That seeing the business community actually gel and talking to each other for once. And we actually now have an official rucking club in Emmitsburg now.
Carry heavy stuff on your back.
Multiple local charities, pub crawls, fundraisers. People really come together and donate and help out. You know, I get a lot of folks coming through my door selling tickets and of raffle and whatnot, and they all seem to do really well. You know, community funded type scenarios. Halloween's always great. It's great to see all the kiddos. That's it for me.
I got a couple different ones, so feel good about that. Attending the activities at the elementary school, working with the children. That's always a very refreshing day. That's when you're at the bottom and you need to get back up to the top. You go to the school and work with the kids. And the park's full of children and baseball players again. So that's.
Everybody likes parks. 'Cause that's what I have. Spending time with my grandson in community park regularly.
I kind of have a lot of the same things everybody else has. Really, it's about community. First thing that came to my mind was the Christmas tree lighting and the activities at the carriage house. That's always a high point of the year, you know, and you just wrap it up and everybody, the whole community's there, your friends, family, and that's always a good time. And then I followed that up with the Community Heritage Day, National Night Out in the Park. And then the Community Cleanup Day. It's always a good one to, you know, to get together with the community, meet new people, and you know, people that are thinking outside of the box, willing to serve others and not in it for what's in for them. That's always a good thing. And then I tagged on, the last thing I put on there was just the multiple dining opportunities in the community, just being able to enjoy a meal with friends and family at the carriage house or the outhouse or other places like that in the community. It's just, you know, it's about community. I think that's important.
Probably sounds the same lines, but just different activities. I mean, Mother's Seat and Carnival time. I mean, that's, you know, important to myself and my family. My kids went there, so it's nice to kind of go back and reconnect with some of the families there. And then just you know, really just the daily interactions, you know, going to the barbershop and hearing all the stories and, you know, kind of learning everything, and you know, using E+ graphics if you need a sketch or need some kind of print. And you know, it's pretty easy. It's not like even exchange money, because it's, you know, they kind of know you and send you the bill and, you know, pay like that, you know, and get everything emailed. And it's, you know, it's nice to have, you know, some of those things in town and people that, you know, kind of know you and you can just drop in and get something done on a short notice. So.
I had a lot of the same as well too, utilizing the dog park interactions with my neighbors. One different one was though, utilizing the community legacy grant for work on my house. That was a pretty positive experience and that made the house look good. So
I had a lot of different things because I don't get out too much being in the wheelchair. Most of my activities at Seaton Village, and we have activities, meetings every month, planning a month, meals, going to restaurants, and just holding good times with our residents. And the other thing was, I had the previous mayor always come in and update us on what's going on in the town. Everybody.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to hear everyone's positive experiences, and I think I got a boost from all of that. Then we'll move on to the second activity. So now we're gonna think far in the future. So I would like you to imagine a headline for a newspaper article highlighting positive changes and development in the community. So it can be from 10 years from now or 20 years from now or both. It'll take about 5 minutes. I don't think it's been 5 minutes, but it looks like everyone's done writing. Does anyone need any more time? No? Okay. We'll start from that side of the room this time. Okay. So would you like to share your headline?
I would like to suggest that the Mount offers some courses, to retired people at a reduced rate. Example, an MBA. I'd like to, if anyone would want to do that.
That's awesome. Who'd like to go next?
I'll go. I'll first not answer the question, but I'll pass that on to my wife since she works for the Mount and she works in the at the Frederick campus. So as when I go home tonight, I'll mention that. As I think that's a great idea, actually. So my headline would be new development opportunities bring solutions to aging water and sewer infrastructure. And the reality is a lot of small towns like Emmitsburg struggle with that. I think a lot of small towns, in Frederick, just with my experience, don't accept some level of measured growth. But I think we have in Emmitsburg, some level of measured growth over the years, and I think we have that opportunity moving forward. Because future growth brings not only the impact fees and hopefully some solutions to their pro rata share of some of those things, but there's ongoing property tax revenue, income tax revenue, and all those things can be positive if we do it right moving forward.
I'm not sure if I answered the question correctly or not, because I'm kind of in a different vein from the previous two speakers, but I put new business creates 500 jobs for Emmitsburg. Newspaper headline, right?
I got my headline would read Emmitsburg bypass completed from West Main Street to South Seaton Avenue.
Mine's real simple. Davis loses re-election bid. No.
So it's going well. I got that one too.
No. Residential and business growth proceeds as planned.
Similar unemployment rates / opportunities rise. Childcare deficit no more. Mother seat in school expanding.
I'll give you one of the type of headlines I write for my businesses now is that small town embraces future. The tie-in, and we want to keep that small town spirit, but we're willing to grow and make the changes needed.
So this kind of builds on the demographic that we have a fairly high poverty rate and Alice percentage of people that are Alice. So my headline reads, more people earning livable wage.
Okay, I got really dreamy. Private-public partnership creates medical research facility. And then underneath that, Mount St. Mary's, Town, Frederick Health Center, and WellSpan, because why do we have to worry about state lines? I mean, let's be creative. Partner in research facility that will bring 600 jobs to town.
Wow, that was great. I'm already like visioning that and makes me feel really great. So before we move on to the next activity, I wanted to discuss the principles of smart growth. It's a concept that began to gain traction in the late 20th century in response to sprawl, and it became popular as planners and policymakers were seeking to promote more sustainable and efficient development practices. These principles focus on creating mixed use development and compact design And that's something that's encouraged in our flexible zoning district or EDFD. Providing a variety of housing choices is also another important part of smart growth. Walkability or inclusive mobility that allows for accessible, safe, and affordable ways of getting around. That's also part of smart growth. And of course, there's preservation of open space and critical habitats and other environmental areas. Smart growth promotes community involvement in decision-making process and making development cater to the community. So these ideas have been incorporated in planning for some time now to address challenges associated with social equity, economic development, and environmental sustainability. So I just wanted to mention these principles because to help you think more about what's important to you as a member of the community before we move on to the next activity. So for the next activity, we'll do a mapping exercise. And I've given you 3 types of maps of the town: a zoning map, a map showing the flexible zoning districts, and a growth boundary map. And I would like you to use these maps to mark areas that should be preserved, developed, or improved. So all 3. So it could be as simple as, we need a sidewalk on Federal Ave to, a certain property on East Main needs to have a certain storefront, or it could be something bigger than that too. And then if you can't mark it on the map, you can also just write it down on page 2 or yeah, I think it's on page 2. Yeah. Also, if you need a bigger surface to mark, there's another map up here. So feel free to come up here and mark the map and jot down your thoughts. Also, feel free to talk to each other and share your ideas as you mark those maps. I think that'd be great. So do we need a little more time to mark those maps, or are we ready to discuss? Right? Okay. So I'll pass the mic around. Feel free to stay in your spot or come up here, and feel free to use that map to show what changes you would like to see. Or you can just hold up your paper, whatever works for you. Just I want to know all your thoughts. So I'll start with the back this time.
I know. So preserved. I'm a fan. I know that the town doesn't have much say in terms of the Fraley Farm as it is privately owned. But like I was just telling Najila, I'd hate to see the Scott Road Farm and the duck ponds and all that stuff tore up and developed. It's absolutely gorgeous back there. Um, that's just my personal opinion. A developed land adjacent Rudders, which from what I understand is currently happening and or in the works. Improved the hotel / apartments above Tuscany's. I don't know what to properly call that building, and or the Doughboy property. That's what I had.
I had a few of those same things, but I had a couple extras. Sidewalk from Federal Avenue down to the Seton Center. That gets it's a lot of traffic for the sisters that walk up to town, and plus Seton Center gets a lot of business down there, and we don't have a sidewalk there, and it's something that Julie and I have been talking about. And a direct roadway from the visitor center into the Silo Hill Business District. Instead of having the people get back out on the highway and they go, well, we'll go to the next town. If they could just get directly from the visitor center into the Silo Hill.
I agree with the roadway there, but I think that'd be a good idea. I would add in the green up on the big map up on the east side of 15 to have that to be somewhat more commercial or like maybe light industrial, but something more, because right now it's parked as CR. And then also over here to add to it, back over at the right behind the liquor store here on West Main Street, which is part of Brookfield, actually that lower end, return that back to mixed use or something there to have or a medium density housing, something that would allow condos or townhomes like it originally was planned for, and also to have mixed use there as well, so you could have some additional business on the west end of town as well.
I didn't really have anything really monumental to add to that. I was just thinking, looking at this and thinking about, what are the opportunities for jobs and businesses, and that seems to be one of the big downfalls of our community is the unemployment, the income levels, and all that. And I agree with others that there are certain places that could be developed. I mean, improved. And I do value the farmland, and so I almost hate to stand here like kind of like I'm God or something and say, well, I'm going to make this a business area. This is going to be a housing area, and all that beautiful land's going to just go away. It'll happen eventually, but I had a hard time with this project just to look at it and say, well, this should be this or this should be that. And I can agree with the that big CR zone up there on 15 by Welty Road. That could be a industrial area. But yeah, jobs. We need jobs in the community. Somebody's got to be somewhere. But that's yes, yeah. So that's all I've got.
think to echo some of the things that were said, I think in general, keeping our employment opportunities east of 15 and, the residential to the west. I mean, I think it would, just wouldn't have that same, the physical connection if residential were to jump to the east side would be difficult. And obviously, I think we want to keep those employment and commercial opportunities for those larger parcels to the east side. Then you have the access to 15. And then, what the other, thing is we are somewhat hemmed in. There are some agricultural preservation easements that the county has, which is good. I mean, it creates sort of a natural growth boundary, but that means we just have to really be cognizant of what's left between the existing town boundary and town growth area and what's left. So there's already some natural limitations as we go west, of town. So really just kind of echoing what we noted there. And I guess it was one comment about the road, the days of bypasses, like the state building bypasses are over. But the reality is, a developer has to come in and build those things. But I think we can create a road network that creates those road connections and accessibility. But I agree, you don't want to kill a downtown. That's the last thing I think we all want to do, is to put a major sort of arterial or even a major collector that pushes traffic away. But whatever we do with these other undeveloped lands is to ensure that there's appropriate road connections that align with the grid that's created in town. I mean, I live in Pembroke, and the one thing that is kind of the bane of that is Brookfield, and it was built and constructed at a time, and the subdivision regulations and things were looking at sort of that northern bypass, and but now it's kind of a residential, a little bit higher order road that really needs to be slowed down. So I think we can learn from those things as we move forward in our future development decisions.
I would echo to preserve the Main Street historic area. And I would say probably most of the village zoning area would be preserved and/or / improved. Thinking of Frederick, and which attracts people to Frederick is that historic downtown feel and look. And I think that Main Street Emmitsburg would benefit from that same feel too.
I really wouldn't change any of the zonings, but I would be curious to know why there's 3 white parcels there. One's off of Creamery Road, the other 2 are in western part of the town. Why they're not incorporated into the town? Thank you.
Hi, I agree with a lot of this stuff. Preserve the village zone, definitely. Part of what works about Frederick is that they have ample accessible parking. We need ample accessible parking close to the downtown area so that people can walk. I have a couple ideas on that, but anyway, Fraley's, I live right next door, so I'm definitely interested in it. I think it would be really cool to take the existing part that's already in town and extend the village zone. I think that would be beautiful over at Fraley's. And there was a time, I don't know if it's true anymore, but there was a time when Becky Fraley wanted to find a way to preserve the house and do like a farm to table, grow the cows in the field and have like an inn at Little Washington, which would be really cool. Her brother and sister were not in favor of that plan, so I guess it got nixed, but I would like to see that. That house is absolutely amazing in terms of the way the stones are laid. And it was built in 1880, which was the same year as our house. So it's got some history behind it, and we know that history. So I think it could be interesting. I think we've got too much low density residential housing, and I'd like to see more mixed use and more floating zones and more creative use where we can combine businesses. I think we need a small business development center here in town. There are a lot of people who work for the federal government and need to drive downtown. I know that home offices are now, considered okay, but a small business development center would help small businesses here, give them a space they could have common services together, like accounting or that kind of thing, and then pool their resources to be able to work better together. So those are just a couple ideas.
So I like Frank's ideas about improving some sidewalks, but don't forget Fraley Road where I live. And then there's a number of places on Lincoln Avenue that don't have sidewalks. There's a number of places in town that don't have sidewalks that could be improved. And I don't know how many people notice this, but it's a state law that when a pedestrian crosses a crosswalk, traffic's supposed to stop for you. Well, you take your life in your hands here in Emmitsburg when you use those crosswalks, especially at night. I mean, that's probably foolish. But I do walk around town at night if I get home late and it's dark and I can't go to the park. I know in some towns they have these flashing lights on the crosswalk signs. They're solar powered and they'll come on, if people get near it or want to cross the crosswalk. I realize it's a state road and the state would probably have to do that, I think, but I think we could really improve our crosswalk visibility, because I do use them and I use them with my dog and my wife who walks slowly. And so I think there could be some improvement there. As far as development, of course, we have growth areas already designated on our map. So all of those areas are reasonable for development. But I'd like to say something that I've never heard anyone else say. I think the prime area for development would be the Daughters of Charity property on South Seaton Avenue. You come into town and make that mixed use. And, some fairly dense residential coming into town. And if you want to do mixed use on the Fraley Farm in front of my house, I'll be okay with that too. Go yet?
Okay, I guess the big for me improved and preserved is Main Street. We need to make improvements. We need to preserve that type of atmosphere. Same time in our northern expansion, I'd love to see some medium density housing put up. We need affordable housing here and everything out there. And then I'd like to see on the northeast side of town some more like business park developments so we could get smaller businesses in for the service industry.
So this is great. Now that we know what we want, now we're gonna work on how we're gonna get there. So the next activity, if you want to go to the next slide, you're going to be brainstorming solutions as to, what are some specific steps towards the things you listed for preservation or improvements or developments. So it could be something, something like an ordinance change. And I would like you to be more specific about what kind of language you would like to see, or it could be, partnerships with different organizations, and what organization would that be, and things like that. So, so we're going to take some time brainstorming those solutions to go with the whatever you came up with for activity 3. So I think we'll just take like 15 minutes brainstorming, and feel free to talk amongst each other, bounce off ideas. I think that would be really great. So, okay. Also, is it okay if I take a picture? Is that fine? Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna share the solutions that we or means of solutions that we came up with for preservation, developments, and improvements. Um, maybe I'll start with the mayor.
Out of several of the improvements that were brought up earlier, I think it's important that we partner with the state highway to address several of those. And we got to be willing to partner, pay our share, and see if we can bring some of those things to reality. So that's a partnership is my big thing.
Didn't have a whole lot to add here. Again, I'm very against the development of the Duck Pond, Scott Road Farm area. Land trusts. I know I'm, and again, I'm speaking out of turn here, I guess, or out of ignorance, but okay, well then include both of those in my statement. So yeah, I don't know anything about land trusts and anything like that. I just would really like to see it left the hell alone. That's just my personal take. Specific steps for development, I didn't really have a whole lot to say on that one, as I don't know. Identify improvements, I thought walking, sidewalks, increases and improvements would go a long way in town, as the mayor mentioned earlier, in Lincoln and such. Could use a little help in that area for sure.
I guess some steps towards the preservation. I think we got to look for public-private combination and grants that float around out there, you know, from the state level, the federal level, and different larger corporations also. From development, again, is I think reaching out to what type of development we want and trying to bring in those developers. If we want high density, mid density, who are some developers we can court to kind of make that happen in areas we want? That's what I have.
Yeah, I had the same thing as Frank, that we need to partner with the state on the sidewalk and crosswalk issues, and also agree with Kevin. You know, as far as developing areas in the growth area, it's going to be up to some developer coming in and doing that, and then the town approving the annexation. So, you know, hopefully we can find some good developer or developers to do the right kind of project that enhances the town.
Ditto.
Does Emmitsburg have a historic preservation commission? Do or do not? Okay. So in terms of preservation oversight from a commission, in terms of, you know, what keeps the feel of Main Street, you know, the way it historic feel, having that oversight is probably something that would be helpful to make it, to keep it historic. Improvements, parking opportunities. Are there incentives for small businesses to live in the properties that are already existing on Main Street? Okay. So something to that effect to kind of draw people in and want to make the improvements to those buildings on Main Street.
All right, I really don't have anything. I feel like I've been isolated being at Seton Village, not gotten out. I'm hopefully, being as I'm on the planning commission, I'll pick up a few more things. But one thing I would like to suggest is, why not we do a celebration for Maryland Day? Nobody else does it in this state. And it's today. It's been 390 years and nobody pays any attention to it. We're in the state of Maryland. I don't understand it.
You know, I think just as we're kind of coming full circle, I think the thing that jumps out to me is the smart growth principles that you put up at the beginning, because, you know, as kind of Mark said, as developers come in and new development comes in, I mean, that's what we should be, you know, requiring and having them hit as many of those check boxes as possible and provide justification for that, because, you know, I thought they really hit home. They are obviously the normal typical smart growth principles, but I think when you read through them, it's a lot of the things that are already inherently within town that we want to continue. So I think those were really important to continue to move forward. And if we implement those, then we'll be in good shape.
I didn't really have a whole lot of ideas. One thing I noticed is there's two different sides of the coin. When we talk about preservation, we have talking about preservation of the residences and the buildings, and then we have preservation of property and land. And so we have two different conversations going on at the same time. I think one of the things that was really beneficial, I thought it was the legacy grants was really helpful for our community, and to continue with that and to further that and to find more things would be greatly beneficial to the community itself. And the preservation of the natural areas, the farmland, like Mason-Dixon farms and that stuff. I think that's all important. Don't know about specific steps. I don't think anybody's gonna drive Mason-Dixon farms out of there, but I think they've got a hold on it. As far as steps for development and which areas, what I was thinking about was really just that the town being friendly to businesses, business owners, not making it difficult, trying to help overcome challenges, not just the town but with the county. I really haven't had much interaction with you yet, but the past two, your previous predecessors, I both Zach and I can't remember her name now. Sue, yeah, Sue. I had a good relationship with both of them, but we had a lot of conflict where it felt like they were making things more difficult than they had to be, instead of being on my side and trying to make things easier. I think that goes a long way when it comes to promoting business and growth. Don, you probably know that well too. Yeah, arguing about signage and all these things. It just goes on and on and on.
We're on a better trajectory.
We are. Yeah. As far as the improvements, one of the things I've really noticed, everybody knows, everybody comments on the parking issue. One of the areas that I have seen and noticed would be the area by the elementary school on West Lincoln Avenue. That grass area is used some by the kids, but very little. And it would probably make a really good parking garage. Exactly, that too. When I think about Frederick and their parking, and there's parking garages everywhere. It's not just parking on the street on meters, but there's parking garages. And when you're confined, it's not always beautiful, but Frederick's done they've beautified their parking garages with the bricks and all that. They don't look just like a piece of concrete in the middle of nowhere. You have to be creative and work with what you have. I think that would be helpful. When I think about the community, that's really that's the center of the community right there. That piece of grass right there that's not being used. The school has parking over there, but that grass area is seems to be like it would be a good place. And then to promote and help with improvements be be, finding more grants to, to help the community. I think that's about it.
You know where the garage is, where the town office is, where the deputies are?
What about moving those vehicles and building a parking garage there? And then you could build some sort of either walkway up to Main Street from, you know where I'm talking about, on the bottom level on Lincoln. You could build like a 3 or 4 story garage there, couldn't you? Huh? Even if you took down that building where you store the shoot. Oh. Oh, darn. Okay. Oh, darn. All right.
The only thing I'm going to add is really as far as steps for maybe development or what have you, or processes, but really is to put some requirements in for the residential developers to have a requirement to meet for some low to moderate housing requirements to try and bring at it, whether it be R1, R2, or R3, either way, but have them meet that requirement to provide a more low to moderate percentage at least. That's all I got to add from everybody else.
Yeah, but don't stick them all in one place. Yeah, it needs to, right, needs to be included in, so it's not like, oh, that's the poor side right there, you know?
Right. That was great. Does anyone have anything else to add? No? Okay. So thanks so much for coming out tonight. So we'll have, or we're anticipating having the document open for public comments in June, but there will be drafts ready before that for the Planning Commission to review. And then during the fall is when we're trying to have the Planning Commission approve the plan, and then Board of Commissioners to approve the plan before we submit it to the state. Again, like this has been very, very helpful to, figure out what to put in the plan, and your voice matters a lot, and just really glad that you all came out tonight. I really appreciate it. The comp plan it's only good if if it has the town's residents or the community's voice in it. So really appreciate it. So thank you so much. Have a good one.